today's edition of the program. We make machines at times they play fast on us. So this evening we're going to be looking at the reasons why the opposition parties in Cameroon have consistently not won elections. I'm talking about presidential elections and other elections, since we know that the CPDM party has been winning majority seats at the National Assembly, at the municipal levels, as well as the presidency of the Republic. What could actually account for the failures of opposition parties in Cameroon? And if time permits, we're going to be looking at whether it is time for opposition parties to come together for a possible winning coalition for 2025. The year slated for the holding of presidential elections in Cameroon. We are going to be discussing this evening with our panelists. Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel is the national president of the Reform Party in Cameroon. Good evening, Senior Barrister, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, fellow panelists. Good evening to your esteemed audience. It's always a pleasure being with you. I hope we're going to enjoy the debate.
Also with us this evening is Ndive Lucas, very strong member of Cameroon's civil society, all the way from Boya, Southwest Regional Capital. Good evening, welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Barrister Ashu. It's a pleasure to be here tonight to look at one of the major causes of the political landscape of Cameroon. The fact that the opposition is still sitting behind. It has changed a lot, and most of the persons who would have maybe been trooping to why not cast their ballot have some doubt with regards to elections in Cameroon. But I believe tonight they will understand a lot, and I want to say that they will have to consider and reconsider their positions.
We also in the company of Maître Alex Ndive Lysinge. He is the president of the British Cameroon National Party, the BCNP. Good evening. We're glad to have you, Maître. Okay, Maître is yet to get connected through Skype to our studio. Senior Barrister, can we understand what's happening when it comes to the opposition and elections in Cameroon?
Well, it is not very difficult to understand. The first thing is that there is a lot of voter apathy. Many people have given up on elections. They just say, well, CPDM has decided to make it its property, so they abandon it to CPDM. So when you look at the election results, you see CPDM winning in certain places with something like 50 votes. People are not interested in voting. People don't register to participate in the voting process. And that is the major hindrance to the whole exercise, because unfortunately the electoral code does not contain any provision that provides for a quorum for the election to be considered as valid. So even if it is two people who participate, it is valid. So that is the first thing that affects the opposition parties, because they may attract the sympathy of people, but you see, most of the people who are supposed to vote for them are not registered voters. And you see, the problem of registration too comes in, because for you to get yourself registered and be eligible to vote, you need a national identity card. We have examined the problems related to the national identity card here, and we've seen that millions of Cameroonians don't have the national identity card, and therefore they are excluded from the voting process. So that is another problem. Then you come now to the technicalities. You have the electoral code, which is I'll call it old-fashioned or tailored to suit the people who are in power. You see, in the last municipal elections, there were about 4 provisions of that electoral code that were obsolete, and the Ministry of Finance had to come up with some improvisation. The Ministry of Electoral also came up with his own. You see, this electoral code needs to be revised and updated and made less cumbersome, because if you subject the electoral process to the provision of certain, the obtention of certain documents, and these documents are supposed to be signed by the people who are in power, you can understand that, for instance, Reform Party was supposed to run in the East. We had our candidates who were to present at their candidature at the councils of Ngoela and what is this again? There are two of those councils there. But unfortunately, on the last day, the treasurer said that they should each provide 10,000 francs before the applications before they can be issued a certificate of I think non-indebtedness. When they brought the 10,000 francs, he said no, each person should provide 100,000.
Yeah, but
the period was so short. I mean, in the morning, between morning and 12.
The period was so short. Before then, you already knew elections were coming up that year.
Well, I know, but all of that, you see, the people in the bush there, you cannot get them prepare their files before time.
Okay,
you can't. See, you have this problem of you see the officials who are in charge of giving you these documents who frustrate the candidates. We had it in Mongo too. Mongo, we had a similar case, and you see there are so many of those examples. You cannot rely on this administration. Then you come now to the whole voting process. Look at the provisions of the electoral code is when it comes to the voting the reports. They tell you that each candidate is entitled to a report, but it's only the report of Elecam that has value. So all the others are pieces of paper that have no value. So why do you give these documents to people if you know that they are valueless? You see, it's injustice. We think that this electoral code has been tailored to suit the whims and caprices of the people who are in power.
Okay.
Most importantly, Mr. Leo, there is no provision in the electoral code to screen the participating parties. Let me take CPDM. I've been saying here that this party has not been legalized. People think it's a play. It's not a joke. CPDM is a party that has not been legalized. You see, and Elecam has no power to check it. They don't have any power. You can go right up to the Constitutional Council before they will tell you that they need to pass a judgment on that. This is not possible. They were supposed to give power to the electoral officers. If you come your candidate for this party, let them produce the documents of your party showing that this party is legalized. A party that has that.
Is that why you've not been able to beat the CPDM, because they're not legal?
Well, this is an illegal party that has always been winning elections. So what do you expect?
Okay.
Every other thing along the road will not follow the law.
Maître Alex Ndive, Lysinge, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Liu, and I've been following what Senior Barrister Ashu is saying. I don't know if everyone is on the platform, and I want to send my warm greetings to the beautiful people too of the Cameroon.
Yes, my first question to you is your take on the reasons why the opposition has not been able to impose itself to overpower the CPDM party that has been ruling for so long, both at the national, municipal, and legislative levels.
I would like to look at it from a personal experience, and I'm happy that there are people who are coming like Barrister Ashu, there's like now other people who are coming, creating parties to challenge the ruling party. One, to me, to my point of view, most political parties in Cameroon, they don't understand their role and they don't know what's a political party. When I say, you see, most political parties, they appear only during election. They don't know. They have to scrutinize and hold the government into account every day. Most political parties in the Cameroons, they are not proactive. They are reactive. You will see what happened. The Anglophone problem have been going on. Then you see political parties like SDF came. Oh, I want to stand and spearhead it, but they have been there for 30 years. Then if you look at the old political parties, the parties that have been there, you look at Bello Boba, you look at John Fundi, all these are CPD and militants who just changed when opposition came in. So it's the same people who are there. We are not having that change. And if you ask most political parties in the Cameroon, you ask them, what is your educational policy? What is your employment policy, equal opportunity, family, housing, law and order? I've seen elections since 1992. What do? They only come, it's politics of personality called. They don't talk about what they are going to do. They don't scrutinize the government. I've never seen them since 1992 telling that, oh, Mr. Bia, you promised a deep sea port in Victoria or a ring road. They don't do that. You have to scrutinize. You have to show that you are an alternative. You are a government in waiting. They don't do that. They disappear and appear only during presidential election. I understand Barrister Ashu have been talking about electoral code or other things. I've listened to that, which is true. But I want to look at it. If you are opposition party, why can't you show something different from the ruling CPDM party? You have people like Bello Buba, Chiruma. Bello have been there for 30 years as leader, Fundi, 30 years. You're doing thing that the government is doing, that you want to replace the government how? Darkness cannot replace darkness. You need to do something that is different. And that's what we are looking forward to do as a party, working with other people. We should tell people what we are going to do on health, electricity, water that we don't have. You have to tell people something different. But when you see somebody will say, oh, a Bamileke man cannot be a president of Cameroon, or this bull. They don't talk about ideologies. Political party is about ideology. What do they stand for? If you talk about electricity, it affects everyone in the Cameroons. Water, it affects everyone. Hospital, it affects everyone. So the political party, they should understand their role. And again, if you look at the constitution of the Cameroons, their political party, they don't really have a role there. The government have to define, the constitution has to be changed to put the powers and role of political party. And political party, government have to make our citizens to understand that when they scrutinize and hold them into account, it is normal. Because sometimes when people criticize the government make as if they try to look down on opposition and talk about the opposition, they talk down on the opposition. We should understand that opposition means opposing the government. You want to replace them. That's how it functions in most Western democracies. So again, when you look at most political parties in Cameroon, there is no internal. Some few people concentrate power in their hands. It is healthy for opposition political parties to have what we call the right, the center, and the left. But unfortunately, I will go again to SDF. When people try to criticize the power in SDF, what happened? Ben Muna sacked, Professor Siga Asanga sacked, Tamanjo sacked. In a political party, you have to have differences. Then you come up with a policy that you go out and sell it. Our opposition, they need to work hard. I understand. People will say, oh, the government election, this. Let's keep that aside. You have to clean your house first before you look at what the government is not doing right. Because it amazes me that Mr. Bia will stand for election and win 71%. The next person is coming with 14%. That tells you that the opposition is not existing. And another factor that I would like to bring on this your platform is that most people, they don't believe when they are standing as presidential candidates, they don't believe they are going to win. What they do, they create political party and they go and join the presidential majority. That's what we have seen with people like Chiruma, Jean Didier Momo, other people. So the way they function, they don't really believe that they will win the presidential election. And sometimes it is possible when you start talking about your manifesto, your ideologies, your philosophy, what you're going to do. People there, you will cross that barrier of talking about tribes or other cultures, because we have the same problem. We should be focusing on a manifesto about energy, environment, family, housing, law, and order, how we can solve crime. If you say that, nobody will say you're a Bamileke or but the problem is those who have been running political parties in Cameroon don't understand how political parties functions.
Thank you very much. Now, you have something to add to that? No, but Nj. Lucas, I want you to come in here. He talked about the fact that there is a rigging and voters' apathy. Is this voters' apathy not also caused by the opposition itself?
Yes. This is the position of a political party leader, and I want to believe that rigging, as it is, was unable to be proven by the opposition within the competent authorities or the competent institutions that could put forward rigging. I think these are all allegations with regards to that. I understand that the opposition parties in Cameroon, they have a focus, and from what I can read, is that their focus is not on how to get the people on their side to move to the polls and cast their ballot. They focus on the things that they shouldn't be talking about. The political landscape in every country is not that which is full of bed of roses. This is quite unfortunate that most opposition political parties do not take this as an assignment and to work on it very hard, because once you consider rigging to be the reason why you would not want to put in more. When I listened to Maître talking, I got something from it. He talked about they not believing in themselves. The aspect of rigging in Cameroon has never been proven, not because the allegations the people make does not have a stand. Howbeit, it is only through the institution that has the right to prove that. Mr. Leo, the issue of opposition parties not seizing power in Cameroon or not winning elections in Cameroon, we have several reasons that one could advance for this. One of the first reasons I'll be presenting tonight is the problem that comes from the opposition parties themselves. The focus on telling Cameroonians that this is what the incumbent is doing, and they fail to educate the people with regards to the electoral laws. The electoral laws. They are so periodical to the extent that the political landscape, given the latitude to which the incumbent can meet the people, it facilitates the incumbent's position. The incumbent uses this to, why not, get its root further into the ground rather than it ought to be. Once opposition parties in Cameroon will understand, when Maître was talking, he made mention about you identifying the flaws of the incumbent or the ruling party and presenting it to Cameroonians to see reasons why they have to leave this person and move over to your side. Not creating tension within the nation for persons to see reasons why they should rather have more anger against the incumbent and to stand on the same spot without moving on your side. Because this is what is happening in Cameroon. Most persons who criticize the electoral code in Cameroon, which I cannot also say that the electoral code of the country is that favorable, because that is also a factor, but it is not the sole reason why the incumbent has not lost. It is not the sole reason why opposition parties are not winning elections. Opposition parties in Cameroon are not winning elections because they are the major cause. You have the infighting within the said parties. For example, it is very common for you to see that members of the same party are fighting. I want to take the recent case of SDF, since we are out to educate the people, to see reasons why we have to have a stamina. Unlike the CPDM, the SDF, with the statement made by Nietzsche a few days ago, brings about friction within the same party and brings in a lot of distrust to that person who has some plans to, why not, militate with that party. But this is what you will not find with the incumbent, because the incumbent has a way of managing its situation. Their dirty lines are not washed in the public. Unlike opposition parties, they are quick to fight themselves in the public. And when that comes up, this is what is very catching, especially to that person who is yet to identify which party he or she would love to militate with. There comes in now this voter apathy, as said by Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. Voter apathy now sets in. The people start asking questions that for what reason would I militate with this party when the party itself is fighting so much against itself? You also have the issue of they are focusing on fighting different opposition parties who are struggling to militate or to coalesce with the incumbent. I want our viewers to understand that these parties reserves their right to coalesce with the incumbent or the ruling party. This is not something that opposition parties should focus on. What they have to focus on is educate the masses. But they will take a very elaborate period of their entire political year to keep telling Cameroonians how a certain party is now coalescing with the incumbent, how this party, like my brother said a while ago, that if you look at the part of Issa Chiroma Bakari, that should not be the focus of another opposition party. Their focus rather should be on how do I galvanize support? How do I bring the people on my side to see with me why if I move over to the Unity Palace, if I take over that municipality, if I take over that division, if I take over that region, if I take over the country, this is what the people would have. But they themselves say things without the pedigree. People watch them also and find nothing interesting in them that they can defend their interests nationally. So it becomes very challenging for opposition parties to actually beat the incumbent, because the things they are criticizing the incumbent against or about, the incumbent is rather positioning itself. Like I said, we also have the issue of lack of political education, which is the major thing. One opposition party would take it upon themselves to educate the masses. How do you educate the masses? For example, when I see persons today talking about making allegations about Frank Emmanuel Biya is being prepared to become the next president of Cameroon, these are not the things for opposition parties to be talking about. What they should be focusing on is, how do you tell the people to stand away from things that are not correct?
Okay.
That should be their focus.
Yes, but you just raised this issue. Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel, he is raising an issue where opposition parties find themselves fighting themselves rather than toppling the government. I'm sure you cited other political parties. We heard Maître Ndive going to the SDF. I'm sure you also, instead of talking of how to conquer power, you spend time. We have so many political parties fighting each other and wasting the little energy. Everybody wanting to present themselves as the saints and the other one as the devil. How do you conquer power in this posture?
Mr. Leo, I'm a politician who is on the field, and I think I would rather focus on the real elements that disturb us on the field.
Okay.
If we say opposition parties attack each other in the field, destroy each other, well, I don't know whether we are looking with goggles or we are looking with plain glasses, because the CPDM showed us a sorry example of a political party in their last reorganization. We saw how they were fighting. They burnt a DO's house. You saw that. You can't talk about that. But you had to attack opposition parties that have never done that type of thing. CPDM people were seen burning a DO's house. I mean, you said there was no proof of fraud, that's a very big lie. In the Ndokoti court here, we have people who have been convicted for electoral fraud. They've been to prison here in Ndokoti. I will not even leave Douala, just in Ndokoti court. People were caught during elections and they were convicted for electoral fraud. There are so many examples. So electoral fraud is not something which is strange. It is a reality in this country. The Constitutional Council counseled some elections, I think in the Northwest, for fraud. Council and asked order a rerun because of fraud. So you can't say there is...
But they talked about irregularities. They didn't say this party frauded or party
Well,
A frauded.
the fact that no person was pinpointed doesn't mean there was no fraud. There
Which
was
of course,
fraud.
in this case, for example, if you submit litigation with regards to what happened, we expect, Barrister Ashu Emmanuel, that it is said by the competent authorities that this is what was identified here. But that was not said openly. So are you on the other hand saying that...
You are talking of irregularity, and fraud is an irregularity. So anyway, the court was correct. There was serious irregularity that pushed the court to order a rerun. So you are not right to say that fraud is not an issue. Okay, I was saying that it is better we focus on the points that actually hinder the progress of opposition political parties. We have noticed that many opposition parties are created around family circles, around a group of friends. The biggest ones will go up to the level of a division. Few of these parties are created with a national ambition. So, I mean, if you have a party like that, which is created, for instance, for Manfe people, when will you ever reach Yaoundé so as to take power? So this one is very important because on the field, few opposition parties cover the national territory. I'm national president of Reform Party, and my party has made an effort, and we intend by 2025 to cover the entire national territory. We have tried. Now like this, we're in the north, we're in the east, we're in the south, we're in Littoral, we're in northwest, south. You see, so you see, we are trying. What makes CPDM win all the time is that with a few votes they pick from village to village, they come up with something that beats the opposition. See, so if you have an opposition party that is established in all the nooks and corners of crannies of the country, you will have that party rivaling CPDM. Why not beating it? So we shall come to other aspects. I think Barrister Lysinge raised a point where he said that opposition parties don't educate the masses on their policies. I don't know in which country he's living, but if he has been listening to my media prime only, I don't want to carry him to other media, only my media prime, he would himself be witness to the fact that Reform Party has carried out education programs here, explaining its manifesto, how we can create jobs from our own means, but how we can end employment by creating jobs from our own means. Stop the economic crisis by putting in place a market economy. Well, he knows, maybe he was just saying it out of enthusiasm, but it is not correct to say that opposition parties don't educate the masses. It's not correct. Personally, I carry out educational programs. There are other party representatives who go on other media organs and carry out educational programs. Then you say we have field work. We go down to the field. I will not call you every day to accompany me to the field when I'm working. So you don't just sit there in some country and begin to say the opposition parties don't. No, people are working. If his own party, I don't know whether it's legalized. If his party is legalized, then he should come here and show us how he thinks that we can carry out the activities of a political party. Otherwise, he will look like a basketball player trying to tell a footballer how to control the ball. So, for now like this, the real problems that are facing the opposition parties, you have this problem of the satellite parties, the CPDM satellite parties that are created everywhere. And these parties are used by the administration. When they have some meeting, they are authorized. When the opposition party, the real opposition parties have a public event, it is paralyzed. So you tell me, how will you prosper in that type of environment? If a legalized political party cannot carry out public manifestations because the civil administrators don't want it to do so, that is a big hindrance. I mean, it's a break on the activities of the party. We cannot close our eyes to that. We are saying that the law being equal to everybody, we should tell these civil administrators to respect the law. Because what we see is that they are having their own reading of the law on public meetings, which I saw the minister of the Minister Delegate of Justice tried to justify over one other media organ. And I told him it's wrong. You cannot justify that, because when the law says for a meeting that is held inside a house, you don't need authorization. You just need to inform. You don't have to transform that into authorization and say the man must come and take authorization from you. The law says he simply has to inform you and then even invite you to come and be present.
Okay. Maître Alex Lysinge, we want to look at the resources available for this political party hoping to overcome the ruling CPDM party. Do they have what it takes? I'm talking about the capacity to have national coverage. Is that not also one key point that they are unable to overcome?
Yes, I want to say this to Barrister Ashu. Barrister Ashu, yes, before I answer your question, I said presidential candidate. I'm not talking about opposition political party. I said most have followed presidential elections since 1992. Most of them, they don't have. This is a manifesto. Look, I have it. They tell you what they will do. I've never seen any political party in the Cameroon, people who have gone for presidential election, telling you their manifesto, what they will do, and put it to the public. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if you have ever been a candidate. I'm not talking about you precisely. I'm talking about what I've seen. I was in Cameroon not too long ago, and I made sure I highlighted the street that is very dirty everywhere, including a 2D. Those are the things sometimes you have to tell the leader or the ruling party. You go around a 2D, there's garbage everywhere. Douala, Yaoundé, very dirty. So you have to tell people how you can deal with such things. So it's very important to me to stand and talk about these things with people. I understand what is going on in the Cameroon, but what is very important is that we have to make our people talk about what matters to them, about health, about electricity, water. People will listen to you. In 1992, the presidential election, I'm sure the turnout was 71%. The last election was 53%. And it's not really to me about voter apathy. Sometimes people have given up in Cameroon. Sometimes I've spoken to a lot of people, I meet people, I talk to them. People, they don't have hopes. Nobody talks about something that can make the people to go out and vote. And a lot of people have given up. They need something exciting. And if there's something exciting, the people will come out. Talking about the resources of the opposition political party, I was just saying, I don't put you, Maître, Barrister Ashu, I don't put you in this category. When I'm talking about people like the Bello Buba, the John Fundi, who have been there for 30 years, and they have been presidential candidates. You see people like Bello Buba, they understand how the system works. That's why they have just decided to be in government, coalition with the government, and keep quiet. There's a big knot, but I don't want to talk about this because I'll be going to the system or what France, Cameroon, or what is going on. It is more difficult than what we think. We can sit on this platform, we can talk, but the issue of Cameroon is deeper, and it's something that it does not affect only us. If you look at us, we are in CEMAC. CEMAC, it's an organization, economic organization, that Cameroon and other countries like Central Africa and Gabon or Equatorial Guinea, we are there. When you look deep, we don't control our monetary policy. We don't determine our interest rate in Cameroon. So it is an organization that was created by France. So we have to look at those things. It's not easy how to fight these things or to change these things too. So it's not only about Cameroon. We talk Cameroon is a sovereign country. Sovereignty means that you control what? Your money, your monetary policy, and other things. But we don't do that. So to an extent, Cameroon is being run by the same with other countries, the CEMAC country. So we should know that. And we can learn from Togo, Gabon, Chad, and other things. Sometimes it's not easy as we look at it, that it's just about us, Cameroon, opposition can stand there or whatsoever. People understand the system. Like, I have a friend called Abdul. He was in Bello Buba's party. They created their own faction. and now they have joined the CPDM again. So you create a faction, you go and join, Bello Buba join. So it's very difficult. I'm just saying that we have to look at certain things. Again, I'll go back again. You talk about the resources of the opposition. When you look at the CRTV is tax-funded television station. But how many opposition they have a right to go and talk on that platform?
There is a program. There is a program for political parties who are represented at the National Assembly at the level of CRTV.
I'm looking at it the same like BBC, Mr. Leo. I'm looking at CRTV. It's the same like BBC. The government.
I want us to get away. I'm talking about the capacity of political parties to have a representation in all 10 regions. If you cannot have persons representing a party in the north, how do you expect to win elections in the north?
That's a good question, Mr. Leo. Listen, there is something that you have to look at where you're strong enough. There's something we don't understand in Cameroon. We have major party and minor party. My political party is a minor party. We don't understand. Chiruma's party is a minor party. All political parties must not be national. That's something we should know. Minor parties focus for a particular reason. Like sometimes I'm talking here in this country, you can have somebody focusing only on migration. Somebody can target a particular region or provinces. If you look, you Google, you see Chiruma's party is being described as a minor party because it focuses only from where it comes from. So not all political parties have got that resources and power to stand all over the 10 regions in the Cameroon. And that's why my party is focusing on Northwest and Southwest. It's called a minor party. If you want to try, to me, as things stand today, it's only the CPDM that have got the power and the resources. But I don't understand, it's up to the government of Cameroon. If they want other party to be competitive, the government can do that. That's why they sponsor other political parties. But again, do the CPDM, do they want other parties to challenge them? I don't think so. They don't really want it. So we are in a difficult situation that it will take time. But however, as somebody who believes that change comes with time, and I don't believe in knee-jerk reaction, I just believe all we need that alternative as opposition to be scrutinizing the policies of the government to make sure that when the government does something that's not right, we point it out. Because we need that checks and balances. That is very important in a democracy. But as things stand now, if you tell me, not that I'm being pessimistic, that there's any political party that can match the power of the CPDM political party, to be honest, it's difficult at the moment. And that's why our party is a minor party. We focus on solving the problem in Northwest and Southwest region of the Cameroons.
Okay. Now, voter apathy, are we not also in this, not necessarily because of the electoral code, but because most opposition parties themselves spend time discouraging militants and, yes, from registering with Electoral?
Yes. Firstly, once you accept that your right to vote be violated by a party leader because you are a member of that particular political party, bear in mind that the opportunity for you to be voted also is liable to be violated. For example, we got it during the last municipal and legislative elections where some political parties boycotted the election and nothing changed the election on the ground. The elections were not considered irregular. The elections were not considered irrelevant. Now, this is where you come in out to create more of voter apathy. And what is quite unfortunate is that most of these party leaders barely see these things, but they create it and they sit back and they start complaining that the incumbent does not want to give them the power to seize power as the desire. They forget to accept this reality that every single time you call for a boycott, you create voter apathy. And once this apathy sets in, it is very difficult to fight it. There are people in Cameroon who want to vote on the day of election, and that would depend on how much you must have convinced them. There are people in Cameroon who may not even want to vote, not that they have not registered, but a majority of the people are persons who have not registered. And the major cause is the continuous singing of the elections were rigged, the elections were not fair, the elections were not this. We understand. I am one of those who say that there should be some reforms in our electoral code. I support that hopefully. Firstly, one thing that we need to kick out is the aspect of the vote being counted by, or when people vote, the body that organizes election bundles every ballot box and give it to divisional authorities or subdivisional authorities. Now they decide on how to process this, because they bundle it, they hand it over to the executive, whereas they ought to organize this election and proclaim its result. This is one of the reforms that I will be talking about also when we get to that. Another thing that we have to also look at it is, when you say that people should not go and vote, you create voter apathy. And those who have this advantage, like Senior Barrister Ashu was talking about certain hamlets that others can now access, and they will pick up elections because not every political party can move to it. Maître Lysinge made very salient point wherein when he talked about the issue of divisional, subdivisional, and national parties. I want the opposition parties. I am of the civil society. I am exclusively for civil rights. And when we talk about civil rights, I want there to understand that some of us carry a lot of research. We do a lot of work on the ground to talk about the things we are talking about. The first thing we all must accept is there are parties that can only be subdivisional because of its resources, given that Cameroon does not have limited political parties as we have in some countries. If you decide today to put up and meet up with the requirements, you'll be accepted to put up a political party. But what will happen is that you may not be able to hit even a division. And given that you are just within a particular subdivision, it suffices that you partner or you coalesce with other parties that are perhaps regional. There it can enable you to galvanize support from the division in which you're coming from, or the subdivision, whereby you can start moving out now to other divisions. But when you think about creating a party and expecting that with your little resources, you want to find yourself in Gelemenduka or you want to find yourself in Furawa, whereas you are originating from an area like Bakebe, it becomes cumbersome for you because your resources might not be able. So the issue of refusing to coalesce is a bigger problem. If you go to the United States, which I think it's always good for us to take good things and compare with, our focus of tonight, my focus particularly in the civil society, is to help the opposition parties to solve their problems, because they all have one problem. And what is that problem? To seize power and to, why not, administer the country. If you take divisional power, it's good. If you have not gotten the national power, it becomes very cumbersome, notwithstanding. But if you have your tentacles positioned properly, in the United States, we have parties that do not contest during the presidential elections. We have parties that do not contest during the elections, the governor elections within the United States of America. There are parties that are focusing on certain counties, and this is being respected. Now, when you put this support, there are parties in the United States that do partner with the Democrat Party. There are parties that do partner with the Republicans. And these parties have their own respective positions. But if you fail to consider these things, you want to begin today and you want to find yourself in the extreme end of the Republic, it becomes very difficult, because to an extent, if you look at the incumbent or the ruling party, it is very obvious that they can be everywhere, because they already have persons who accept being members of the party and are equally workers. For example, you are liable to find a CPDM worker or a CPM militant in Furawa, but you are likely not to see a member of the Reform Party in Furawa, where Senior Barrister Ashu Ewane, pardon, is the national president, because that party has not gotten the required resources to find itself there. So boycotting of elections is the worst thing I can preach about. No matter what you see, like I told them, the political landscape is not made of bed of roses. As a matter of fact, it will never be a bed of roses. It will never be plain. The political landscape of America is not plain. It will never be plain in Cameroon. You make it plain. You tell the people. Once you educate the youth, once you educate the people. Now, how many opposition parties have taken it upon themselves within this period where we now have some relative calmness in the northwest and southwest, in some areas, to go down to the field? I have been in almost everywhere within these two regions. I have persons whom I relate with from almost everywhere within these two regions. There are parties that are not even talking about it. They will tell us that because of what the non-state armed groups are calling for, they don't want to risk their lives. But we have other forums. How many of these persons have become members of different forums where they share their manifestos, where they share their opinions on certain things? They will tell you that they are there, but I am in so many of these things, you barely see them. Sometimes you submit information, they will tell you that the way you put your information is like you're working for the incumbent. This is because our research on the ground gives us reasons to make the things the way we say them. A few days ago, I posted it in a group wherein I was telling the young people that no matter what happens, Frank Olivier Emmanuel Biya remains a bona fide Cameroonian with the right to vote and be voted. And for those who sit and think that he is going to be given power illegally, they should forget about that, because they have tested the waters enough and they have realized how docile young people are. So the earlier they start going to the polls, and so somebody was very quick to castigate me that they have given your own package and you are now talking for them. But it was a reality. So they should focus on educating the young people who stand at the gate when elections are ongoing. Most of these persons, by my experience in 2013, particularly from areas where I voted, they never even had voters card. Yet they were there just to keep on chanting. They solved no problem. So you realize that even those who consider to be stuffers of ballot boxes, most of these persons do not even have voters card. They don't have political education. Nobody tells them that, okay, did you know that this is your right you are violating? Should you accept 5,000 francs to stuff the ballot box? Do you know the effect? Nobody goes down to talk about that. So I think that what these persons could be doing is that they should focus on certain information. For example, I'll be telling the Reform Party that why some persons are moving down to talk about the manifesto, let some other persons go down on the field to talk about the rights violation and how they are abusing themselves by their malpractices. It will open their minds. It's not all about the food. What would be the reason for you to eat today? Like I keep asking some youth who think that it's about giving you the food today and the drink, and they seize your good life for 7 years and more. Okay. What would be the reason?
Senior Barrister, resources, human and financial, is a key problem to the opposition today, but there are more than 300 of them. How do you expect to win elections when the resources are not there financially? The manpower to represent nationwide is also not there. How do you take power?
Well, Mr. Leo, you see, it is difficult for a district party to take power nationally. It's difficult. But if your party is a national party, then that will have no problem, because let me talk about my own party. Our Reform Party was created by 1,000 people throughout the nation. You see, from inception, we went national. So if we want now to just increase our activity, that's not going to be a problem, because we already have people all over, and it's just a matter of shaking the place, shaking the water for the fish to come out. So I come to the first part of your question, the resources. Mm-hmm. You need people on who you can count. You don't go pick up editor or any Tom and Dick to come represent your party. It should be somebody who knows, who is knowledgeable, who knows the manifesto, who knows your party policy, who knows the party discipline, knows the rules of the party, and who is of good conduct. You don't take a criminal to represent your party, because nobody will follow him. Then you come now to the other aspects, as he was saying, the education. Because if you have people representing the party, they should be able to carry out educational campaigns at the grassroots level. They should be able to go from Njangi house to Njangi house, family meeting to family meeting. That is what we do, because if you want to go and wait for Mr. Superprefect to authorize you, you will never get the authorization. But I don't need any permission from any Superprefect to go to a Njangi house, or to go to a family group, or for a village meeting. So we can do that. You can go down to those groups and educate the people, explain the party policy, and if you can win some people, why not? You create a word and progress. Make sure after when you create those words, next thing you have to do is coordination. Because when you talk of resources, of financial resources, you cannot get financial resources if the party is not organized on the ground. Because it is from the purchase of party cards, sale of party material, that you make money. Few people will have to want to make a gift of their property to the party. So the party has to be on the ground for the members to chip in some money. And if you don't have that, it means that the party will be supported maybe by a few big guns who have the money to put on the table. That is an unfortunate situation, because if you have that, then the people who are financing the party will be the one calling the shots.
Yes, but so many parties, do we have need for them in Cameroon, given the stakes today?
Well, we have about 320 parties as of today on paper, but in actual fact, we don't have they're not up to 10 parties. See, the impressive number of parties that we have on the official register does not reflect the parties that are working on the field. Because many of these parties, like, no, I think Mr. Lysinge who mentioned it, some people resign from Belobuba when and created their own party and joined CPDM. You see, they are going there to go and get their own share of the cake. They think that by joining CPDM, they will get their own share of the cake, and they will not have to wait for Mr. Bello to collect money and come and give their own. That is not a political party. A political party should be in the field, should have an ideology, should have a plan of action, should have as objective winning power.
Maître Lysinge raised this issue of district, divisional, regional parties.
Yep.
Do you have the impression that those who have political parties understand that they can only have pass over specific areas where they come from? Because almost everybody wants to be president of the republic.
They do. You see,
yeah, but when you look at them, everybody says, I want to be the next president of the country.
No. For a district party to nurse presidential ambitions, that is impossible. Because for you to have presidential ambitions, you have to go national. But I say those district parties are important in the sense that they can go into coalition with other parties and form a stronger group.
Yeah, but we've seen that.
We have seen that.
Okay.
We've seen that. You see, it is wrong to say that the opposition does not win elections in Cameroon. The opposition has won elections in Cameroon. We know SDF once swept the councils, UNDP once swept parliament. Opposition parties have won elections in this country. And if we can beat CPDM once, we can beat them again.
Maître Lysinge, has the opposition in Cameroon presented itself to the population as a better alternative to what we have today as the ruling party? We're talking about the CPDM.
Yeah, when I'm talking, I should be very clear. Those who have been presidential candidates before, I don't think they have presented themselves as an alternative to the government, because I say darkness cannot replace darkness. Light have to replace light. We all know the opposition political party that have been existing before, and I'll tell you, most of them, they are from CNU and the ruling CPDM party, most of them, and they have never, ever come and give an alternative, because sometimes, as we are debating on your program, people tend to know us. You cannot have political parties, opposition and government, that they don't debate, they don't talk. If you look, most political parties in the Cameroon, most of them, I'm not talking Barrister Ashu, I'm not including you there. I know the people that I'm talking about before you. Most of them, they will never come and stand and talk on a platform like this. Do you know why? They are that archaic people that if you ask them questions, they cannot answer. If you ask most people who have stood for presidential election, what is monetary policy? What is GDP? What is interest? They don't know. That's why they are afraid to come and stand and talk on this platform. Again, to next hope to be a leader of a country, there are certain basic things you need to know, like economic, law, other things. You cannot just jump that you want to be a leader of a country because you're that popular or people are that stupid. Luckily enough today, we have social media. You can talk. When I see people like Mr. Lucas there, Barrister Ashu, I'm happy to see them debating, because by debating, people understand you, they know what you stand for, they know if this person can make a better leader. But when you have people who don't come and talk, they do monologue, they talk to themselves, they don't want you to ask them questions, that time is over. We need to debate. We need to be, people need to ask us questions and ask you, how are you going to solve this problem? And you answer. We don't just appear as if I'm a leader and you stay there for 30 years. Gone are those days, because you need to talk to the people, you need to meet the people. I'm not a fan of President Macron, but I admire what President Macron has been doing. You see, he goes and meets the footballers anywhere. Do you know why he's doing that? Because he knows that these people vote for me. But unfortunately, in our country, sometimes I heard Mr. Lucas saying about voters' apathy. It is normal to have voters' apathy in Cameroon. Why? People believe the system does not work. Whatever I do is going to be fruitless. That's what causes voters' apathy. So we have to understand these things. And again, I would say to Barrister Ashu, talking about we can work together as opposition, but however, people need to know, what do we stand on education, employment, energy, family, housing, law and order, fighting crime, transport, tax. But my problem in Cameroon is that people just say they are opposition. But we need to know, because at the end of the day, an opposition can have the same manifesto with a ruling CPDM political party. So each party have to come out. This is what I stand on environment. This is what I stand on electricity, how to bring water. Then I know, oh, I can go into coalition with Barrister Ashu because we have similar things. Opposition doesn't mean that all opposition, they have the same manifesto. I can't blame somebody from joining the CPDM because sometimes they have similar things. And again, we can work together in Cameroon. Like, if there's an issue that we have something in common ideologies, like what? There's what we call tactical voting. I can understand that Barrister Ashu, if he stands as an MP in this area, is going to win. So I will put candidates on those places. That's what we call tactical voting. We can work together. It's not only about national. Politics is different. We can do things based on our interests and how we have to change the country. It doesn't mean opposition is a saint and the government is a devil. I don't look at it that way, because I understand the government has been there for that long, and I'm not surprised that the government has been there for that amount of time. Why do I say so? We, as opposition, what have we done? What have we shown that we are government in waiting? How often do we criticize the policies of the government? There's COVID gate, there's can gate, but we sit quiet when government do certain things, and we appear, as I said before, only during election. Every day you have to look, what is the Minister of Health doing? What is the Minister of Territorial Administration doing? We have to look at them and shadow them and scrutinize them every day. And when you scrutinize them, people will understand that, okay, this opposition, they are good. For the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they have been giving alternatives about Kangate, about Glencoe, about all those things. But we sit quiet and only appear during election.
Thank you.
That's our problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Maître. Let me take some messages. Cameroonians should be more involved in politics, from our house to our job sites to our churches, more importantly, our higher institutions. Our politicians should bring solutions, please. Let's take the example of Obi movement in Nigeria. Nemo Bison, writing from Cap, Cameroon. Good evening, Mr. Leo. All the opposition leaders in Cameroon are power mongers. They all behave like the so-called Amazonian leaders, which they haven't got to the power yet, but fighting over power. Joel Best, writing from Bamenda. Does the government have an excuse for why it is called so centralized? The youths in universities are not very much educated practically in electoral practices, and without that youthful population getting into elections, and the old people continue doing their thing like it's a religion for only them, then one party will always continue winning. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I think Cameroonians should forget about politics, because all those calling politics are thieves. Since from the beginning of this politics issue, Cameroon is not growing, I mean not improvement. So I think they should forget about this issue and look for a way forward to better the lives of the Cameroonians, because with politics, Cameroon goes nowhere. Amba Charles, writing from Limbe, is this not actually what Cameroon is facing, where people think that they should not get interested into politics because politics is taking us nowhere, instead of getting into politics and then getting themselves elected to turn things around?
It's still wrong. There they go again to violate their right. And this is not going, this is leading nowhere. You can turn a lot from that once you have the adequate knowledge. For example, if you ask most of those who say things like that, how knowledgeable they are with regards to the position of the prime minister, how knowledgeable they are with regards to the position of the president, they will not know. They don't know the job description of the president. And who has to educate them on that? It should be the opposition party. So I don't think that abstaining from casting or casting your vote, or I don't think that abstaining from taking part in elections is a solution to it. Electoral processes are always very, very cumbersome. In fact, I want to say this to most, especially the young people, that the world has moved away from that position where you think changes within states can easily come through some of the means we have in mind. They are just illusions. They will never be accepted. I want to take this opportunity, Mr. Leo, to also let the youth know that if there is a change of policy with regards to the ongoing crisis in Northwest and Southwest by the United States concerning Cameroon and those who are residing there, it is because the U.S., first of all, is a country that promotes democracy. They believe in election. They know that it is through election that you can take power. That is why once somebody organizes a coup and takes power, they don't support that person. And I want us to understand that nobody can succeed from a particular position that you're standing. I know that some of us out there support some of these persons whom through certain coup d'etat, they are actually being leaders of their country. Believe me, they cannot indeed provide to the people adequately. If I were to zoom into the Reform Party's manifesto as it is, the manifesto of the Reform Party will be speaking better than the policy that these persons have in place, because one of the first things that they have difficulty with is to relate with the international world. And you cannot work in isolation. No matter how much you have, America is world power. She depends on what China will produce to satisfy its local market. So if you think the system of voting in Cameroon is a problem, it is the reason why I keep telling the youth, join the bandwagon. If you come into this wagon and accept to have the adequate knowledge, it will help us a lot. I don't believe in boycott of election. I don't believe in this saying that what will change if I should vote. Others have been voting and nothing has changed. Mr. Leo, there is something I want our viewers to understand, is this fact. Most of the persons who are also contributing in this mindset of persons thinking that boycotting elections or having this voters' apathy is going to help them. I understand that, for example, we still have persons in the incumbent government of Cameroon within the ruling party of Cameroon who are members of the very first political party that was there for the entire nation, the CNU. And we still have them. They came up, and most persons tend to look at these people. Some believe that their position will not change anything if they should get involved. I want you to understand that if you listened to what the president said some years ago, wherein he called on the youth to get involved, this is because the youth have a lot to play. In fact, let us just get these things right the way they are. If you look at, once some youth are not comfortable and once there is a resistance somewhere, the first people they target are the youth, because they know how powerful, how knowledgeable they are. But in most cases, the youth they don't prove these things. So if you want to stay away because Barrister Ashu Emmanuel is saying things that do not please you because he's from this party, it is not helping. There is another thing that I'll have to give on your mic with, or by saying, is this. Most opposition parties, for the fact that democracy itself is not existing within them, it's also creating this voters' apathy. We want to solve this problem. For example, I'll be calling on Senior Barrister Ashu Emmanuel. You must not be the chairperson and the president for your party forever. If you want a young man to believe that there is democracy, think about organizing an election where you stand by the side. I know that some persons will tell us that you don't know what it takes to set up a party. If you think you are setting up that party for yourself, then don't come and tell us that it is a party for the nation. If you are setting the party because you want to seize power, you want to take power, you want to better the health life of Cameroon and the economic life of Cameroon, and you want to give them road, you want to give them water, you want to make a better educational system, then bear in mind that you being a Democrat, practicing the democracy you want the incumbent to practice, it will enable the young persons a lot to come into the entire process. But when they see you today, they see you tomorrow, they see you the day after, they see you the year after, come on, it becomes very challenging for some young persons to believe that there is democracy.
Good evening, Mr. Leo and your panelists. I like the debate between your political actors. In my own humble opinion, as far as I am concerned, all elections in Cameroon is fraud, so it's discouraging wasting time voting. Let the people in power continue to power the country. Martinez Manga is writing from Douala. Good evening to you, Martinez. Martinez, I think that's not the best way. There must be a way out instead of giving up. Good evening to you in the studio. As small as Cameroon is, we should not be talking about 300 plus political parties. Why not dissolve most of these mushroom parties to lessen the number of and give the population a direction to follow? How does 26 million population follow 300 parties with the high level of voters apathy practice in this country? This shows that party heads do not have the country at heart. Terence is writing from Mutengene. Good evening to you, Terence. I think it's a big problem when people get up in Cameroon with the millions of problems now and are still adding new political parties. Mr. Leo, I think you have asked a very important question about why we should create up to 300 parties. The frustrations of Cameroonians are increased by these so-called political parties. All opposition parties should become one party and can dream of changing the present dynamics. And for its writing from Bamenda. Good evening, Mr. Kum and the crew on board. If there is no coalition by the opposition to oust the present regime, no opposition will never win any elections in Cameroon. My humble advice to the entire opposition machine is to forget about their political aggrandizement and focus on presenting a single candidate come 2025. They should also think about the masses. Most opposition parties leaders are already better placed by Hillary Puti Wanshambi, writing from Banja subdivision. Senior Barrister, so many political parties' energies are wasted by what some of our persons are doing. How do we get an opposition in Cameroon that can beat the current system? Can we move to our second topic? How do we form a coalition? Is it time to form a coalition that can win elections in 2025? And how do we get that done?
Mr. Leo, the Frenchman would say this is j'ai déjà vu.
Okay.
We have seen this before. Somebody proposed there that a coalition of all parties, or all opposition parties, is necessary before we can beat CPDM. Well, we have had the coordination, what was called the coordination of our political parties, and we all know how it ended, because it was flawed by CPDM satellite parties.
But this was more than 25 years ago, Senior Barrister. There was no internet, there was no Facebook, there was no WhatsApp. How do we now inspire persons with these advantages?
Mr. Leo, you see, you were not an actor. I was an actor then I was in SDF, and we had this big meeting at the Presbyterian Hall that is down the port there, near Foyer du Marin. And we had this meeting, all the political leaders, the opposition leaders were there. And as we're in the hall, I will give their names, Mr. Bello, Mr. Kodok. They left the hall, went out, and they were calling Yaoundé and giving a report on what was happening in the hall. We all saw. So, I mean, you cannot work with people who are there to represent your adversary. That's not possible. You see, after trying this pill for some time, it is time for us to look for something else, because we cannot be going back to the same thing all the time. Look at what CRM came up with last time. They picked a handful of parties and said they were going to work together to produce an electoral code. Yeah. Where have they gone to? It has gone to nowhere, because you invite somebody today, before even you finish writing what you are writing, the government is away. You don't even know. You don't know how he came about being a legalized political leader. I have a solution with that. So you see, we think that in the present dispensation, the political parties should take the bull by the horns. One of the ways by which you should take the bull by the horns is, one, go national. Try to cover the field, sir. Let us not be lazy. Let us cover the field. I am doing it. Somebody told me that Southwest was a no-go zone, but I think I will be coming to Kumba. My people are working there already. I will be coming to Kumba. The land of my birth, I will come there. I've been going to Boya, I've been going to Limbe. I will be coming to Kumba. And from Kumba, I will go to Manfi, and from there, I will go to the northwest. You see, we cannot sit down and expect to get the votes when we don't go down to the field. We have to go down. I have representatives in the northwest, but they cannot be working effectively if I don't visit them. If the party doesn't come with a commission that goes round to see how they're working. So the solution is not to sit in our small corners and hope that we shall make a coalition with other parties. Go down there. What if in the noon division, their divisional party is not loved by the population? You go and make a coalition with that party. Do you think the people will support you because you have made a coalition with them? I tried going to the noon division and I was surprised. I was surprised when I entered the noon. I went as far as Njitapom. I went to Koptamo and Njitapom right inside. And I saw that many people did not even want the CPDM. The meeting I had there was fantastic. When I came back to Douala, to my greatest surprise, I was in the court hall, and one of my colleagues came and was insulting me that I'm a politician who is only hovering around the town. Somebody came out from behind me and said, this is that man who was in our village yesterday. And my colleague looked at me and said, which man? I said, this man. He was at Njitapom. And he testified that, yes, I was there. And this colleague, since that day, he said, no, this man, we should respect him. So, you see, the politicians should stop being lazy. Let us go down to the field and do the job. Let's contact the people. That is the only way, because if you contact the people, you are going to sell your program. I was talking about the noon. Does the what they call it, this a party again? This is a Bamum party. Does it have the solution to end unemployment?
UDC.
The UDC. Does it have the Reform Party manifesto? It doesn't. You see, so if you carry this manifesto to the people of Noon, you are sure that you will get a good number of people who will support you, and you may be surprised. Look, SDF had beaten UDC in the Noon, to show you that it is not because the party is divisional that it is strong. SDF went to Noon and was beating them there. So I think that the solution is for the politicians to go down to the field and actually campaign and make sure that they get the support of the population.
Okay.
Not by sitting behind and hoping to make coalition in the hope that that coalition will carry them to a today. Because the party you are coming to liaise with, you are not sure that party is loved by the population.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo, and all in the studio. Mr. Leo, how do you think people will fight CPDM when they debrief some divisions from registration because of no Electoral office? You want to write the deprive. This had given the advantage to CPDM to win in every election. I personally have been asking those who matter why the Electoral office is not functioning in Mundimba for years now. Mr. Liu, no proper election had ever taken place in their division. You people should help us. Ayuk Thomas writing from Mundimba. Good evening. Politics is not what we need in this country now. When we know that at the end, what's supposed to be is going to be manifest in other dimension by those vultures who call themselves. Okay. Good evening to you. You need to get into politics to oust those you hate. Mr. Kum, please, for Barrister Ashu. Ashu's number, Senior Barrister, can you just give the number 6?
99989279.
9998
9279.
9279. Okay. Good evening to you. That is Barrister Ashu's number. Hello, Mr. Liu. The opposition has failed to win elections in Cameroon because of infighting, poor organization, no clear policy to win the people, lack of level play field, and rigging machinery from the government. Victor is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you, Victor. Greetings to you and your panelists, Mr. Liu. Bombay Protus writing from Banga. Banga Kam, one, it's a pleasure having you and your phantasmagorious panelists at my media prime today, and I wish to highly appreciate you for such didactic expression to conscientize fellow Cameroonians. Thank you very much. Yes, he's a tough guy. You see, Mr. Liu, I listened to your program to improve my analytical skills, and that those discussions can help Cameroon. Nobody is sincere in this country. Okay? Everybody is a crook. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Firstly, what is democracy, as our brother keeps blaming his other educated colleagues like that? Youth in the very first place are not given opportunities in action unless you need to use them for your selfish interests. For me, no need for organizing presidential elections in this country, since one power is always at the top. No matter what, sorry, we still remain under one-party system, not multi-partyism. My take is that we should learn to use the right word, not misusing words and confusing people, okay? Thank you. It's Jerry from Bamenda. Beautiful debate. Keep up, Mr. Leo. Thank you very much, Jerry, and to everyone watching us from Bamenda. Good evening to you all in the house. There is one thing in Cameroon which the party in power have understood. In every village, they point in place their chiefs that answers and coordinate for them. In my village is so, okay? Pa Mike is writing from Ekondo Titi, that's Indian Division. Good evening to you, Pa Mike, and to everybody watching us from Kumba, from Mundimba, Ekondo Titi, Pomenda, and all other parts across the world. Now, Maître Alex, Lysinge, what should we be doing as opposition parties to be able to overcome the sitting CPDM party?
Yeah, I've listened people have talked about 300 political parties in Cameroon. That's not important. Because you create a political party doesn't mean that you have members who are following you. I'll keep on repeating, there's something that's very important that we are not doing. Opposition doesn't mean, I will still repeat, it doesn't mean we have the same political ideology. I've gone several times on the website of the SDF political party to find out what they stand for on education, taxation. It's just one page on social media, on, I don't know what is their website. At the end of the day, what we need to do, it is very simple. I've been in Cameroon. When you look at what is happening in our country, electricity, when I arrived in Yaoundé, they say there's going to be no electricity for 5 days because they are doing what? And what did they say to me? Honor and non-say. So we accept certain things. What are the consequences? The fact that electricity is not going to be for 5 days, my things are in my fridge, they are going to stop, who is going to pay for it? We need to look at common things, and we don't do that a lot in Cameroon. When you talk about water in Yaoundé, you see rusty water coming out from the tap. Nobody talks about that. There is a common things. There are common things, rather, that we as Cameroonians, when you talk about it, it supersedes tribe or any other thing. There are common things. When people are sick, they go to the hospital. Some of them, they cannot pay their bills. They lock them, they become prisoners. Our party, we are looking for what? Free medical for everybody in that country. It was when I was young, back home. What happened? We used to go to the hospital, it was free. We should talk about policies. If we talk about policies, nobody will bother whether you come from which tribe or whatsoever. We should. I understand people who say, oh, we talk about policy. What do they stand for? Our party stands for free health for everybody in that country. Nobody should ever die because they cannot pay medical bill. When it comes to education, education should be autonomous. We should leave it in the hands of academic to deal with it, and especially university. University should be open. People should debate any type of things or whatsoever. We don't want Minister Famdongo in university. University, they don't tell you how to do things. They don't tell your brain this. It should be autonomous. The people who are academicians, they should decide on what they do there. It should be free from government. We should look at these things. A lot of people are excited in Cameroon. They want to listen the changes that we want. But unfortunately, most people who wants to be president or do other things, they think the same. People are too egocentric. We think about me. I sit here, I talk on your program. Most people don't know. I know people in A2D. If I want a job, I will do it 1 second. But at the end of the day, when you want to serve your people, you have to forget about those things. Because you look at what the people they want. I want to work with any opposition political party. But as I say, what are their manifesto? What do they stand on? Education, taxation, local government, equal opportunity. I want to know those things. Most people say they stand on this. They don't do it. I've seen especially those who have been presidential candidates. What we have is politics of personality cult. I've been a presidential candidate. It ends there. At the end of the day, politics is not about being president. If I go, I respect a lot of my political opposition leader in the French part of Cameroon. I love them. Kabal Libri knows his strengths. He went somewhere, people will say it's a basaba. It doesn't matter. You go where you can win. That's politics. Chiruma knows where he can win. Belobuba knows where he can win. Jean Didier Momo, all of them, they know. And I'm asking, because as I said, my party is a minor party. It's focusing on solving the problem in Northwest and Southwest. If I know that's where I can win, I'll put all my resources there. That is how you do politics. When you think that should be national, you're wasting your resources. How many people can go all over in Grand North, in the Western Province, in Littoral and win when you're not the ruling party? You have to learn to be realistic. I used to campaign in London. We knock at the doors. Sometimes we look at this street. We know, most people on this street, they are going to vote this party. So we don't waste our resources there. You look at where you can win and put your resources there. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't bother me whether we have 300 political parties. The point is, having a lot of political parties doesn't mean anything. You have to understand what the people want.
Okay.
We have to make politics to be exciting again. Most people, they have given up. Most people, they are sleeping. They are disappointed with politicians. They don't believe in politicians. How can we make politics to be exciting again? Is that we must tell the people how we can solve their problem to make sure that electricity, there will be no cut. The water will be okay. To make sure that health is free, education is free, cost is what? We have Bakassi, a beautiful place. Qatar became independent in 1971. Look at Qatar, beautiful. We have to tell our people what we can do for them, what change we can, because our people have given up. They are sleeping. They are tired.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening again. If Maître Lysinge tells us 300 plus political parties is not a problem, I am tempted to ask how many political ideologies he wants us to follow with these numerous political parties. Just like one of your panelists just said, coalition can't work because most of these party heads are there for their personal interest and see no reason to give up their positions to form a coalition. Okay. The problem of politics in Cameroon and Africa in general boils around tribe. You could have a good manifesto and articulate it to the public very well, but people will always want to know where you are coming from. Once they know, it will be enough reason for them not to follow you, even if you hold the key to save the whole country. If we remain in this mentality, we are going to suffer for many years. And if we must succeed and do so fast, we must break this barrier. This barrier can only be broken through sound education that is constantly educating the masses, like one of the panelists has suggested. Prince Ato writing there. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Your program today is so interesting, and I really want to appreciate all the barrister from the UK who has really carried out research on Cameroon problems which boil down to monetary policy which determines the economy of a country. We need people like him to educate our citizens on our economy, and they should stop blaming others for our problems. For you to lead this country as a good leader, you must understand our monetary policy and the link or the relationship existing between Cameroon, CEMAC, and France. Emmanuel is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo and panelists. All what you guys are saying is good for a country that has a good voting law. No matter what the opposition do, they can't be the rigging machinery in place by the CPDM. The DOs, the SDOs, governors are there to protect the CPDM and not the elections. Let's wait for God's time. Like Petit Pays said in one of his songs, let's wait for the reaction of God. Takang is writing from Limbe. Good evening to you. Takang, good evening to all the panelists, members, especially to you, Mr. Leo, the program coordinator. I am Samji Anand, a researcher and advocate in training based in Limbe. To me, the existence of mushroom political parties and leaders who have no plans of gaining power but rather to give voters to the ruling party is one of the reasons why an opposition party can't ever take power. There is actually no unity amongst the oppositions. Many of them are out for the personal interest. My humble opinion is that opposition parties should form a good coalition void of their personal interests. With that, things can change. Good evening to you all in the studio. Senior Barrister Ashu Frunzi toured the whole country some years back and ended nowhere. You people are hoping to win with which weapon do you have that parties like the SDF did not have some years behind? George is writing from Bamenda. Good evening to you, George. Well, don't know you, but okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panel. Do we really have any opposition party in this country? I doubt. The CBDM have put in place a machinery to puncture any real opposition party in this country. All are just for their money making and not for interest of the masses. God have mercy. Anu Terence, writing from Boya. Do you also discover that because the opposition has failed to convince the people, the population also will not trust them the way they spend time castigating the ruling party?
Yes, yes, of course. That is indeed a factor, and that is the reason why Elecam couldn't have the number of voters expected to be in their register, because in the voters register of Elecam, you have very few persons who did register within the just ended calendar which they have. Opposition parties, because they have refused to deliver, we cannot hide these things, because these are things which Cameroonians want to see. They want to live to believe it. If you are opposing somebody for over 30 years and you have been unable to take over the central seat, because the presidency is the central seat. Every other seat, be it from the municipal seat or the regional seat, it doesn't matter to many persons out there. But I want to say that this is what opposition parties need to go down to the field and educate the people. We will support in the education process because we know how important it is. We are a civil rights institution and we want the people to understand where they stand. Opposition parties in Cameroon, one of the major reasons why they will not want to maybe change their leadership. Firstly, I've always said this, they have quite a very short-term view. They are not like other parties in some countries where a man is building a party for the next 100 years. There are parties that do believe that they will not even be there after 7 years. There are parties that are only there to test the waters, maybe during their very first tenure. If you take some parties like those who are now able to secure a seat at the parliament, they are aware that during the upcoming election, they may not actually have the same thing. Hence, most of these persons will give us reasons why they would not want to coalesce. If you go to countries like China, I want us to have this. It is a one-party country, but the difference there is that those who represent the people at the party, in that one party, are professionals, and there is a change. For example, if you talk about doctors, they have persons who represent doctors in the Communist Party. They have persons who represent doctors. Now, these people do rotate, though it is a one-party system. And once you cannot have persons within these political parties who can rotate, a manifesto of a political party must not be implemented by that particular person for it to work. If we say it's a manifesto that a party has in place, it means this is what that party stands to give to the people. Be it A or B, they will follow what the party has.
Okay, we are out of time. We have to end here. Good evening to you people in the studio. Looking at the political system of the country, it's very difficult thinking that we can change this country through elections. The whole of Elecam is controlled by the system, and we can still sleep and dream of changing things through elections. Yes, it's possible. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Peter from Tico. All politicians should first stop the smoke in ground zero before going down to give their fake promises. Okay. Good evening. Please, they should try to solve the Anglophone crisis before any elections. Cynthia is writing from Bamenda. I love your program so much. It's Ngole Franco writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to you. Ngole, good evening, Mr. Leo. The ruling party has taken a good strategy to divide the opposition leaders. What is the need of creating many parties? There were no elections in my constituency, but surprisingly, the CPDM won. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Your program is very educative. If we have to go through elections, it won't work. Okay. I would like to differ with the other Leonard Barrister on board. It is high time the various opposition parties thought of trusting each other. Our barrister just mentioned about people not trusting a given party to form the coalition. Mistrust and greed is what is killing opposition parties in Cameroon once more. Okay. Good evening to you, Tabot Machiavelli. Greetings. The government is adamant to change and not ready for any positive change because the practice still dates the same archaic colonial system. Only God will help us. Tabot Machiavelli watching from Yaoundé. It's been long. Good evening to you. And also to you, Lister Montana watching from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Failing to play your civic right by not voting is not correct, but the case in our country is of no use because the rigging machinery are always put in place by the ruling party. Kongso is writing from Ndive. Good evening to you, Kongso. Bravo to CPDM. It is well planted all over the national territory, but opposition lack that skill and always wait to convince the CPDM voters instead of going to the field and look for their own candidates. Thanks. Victor is writing from Boya. Mr. Liu, sorry for my suggestion. However, our election in this country is devastated. Someone has been president for National Assembly since I was in primary school. Now I'm above 40 years. How can you explain a situation like this? It's his father's ancestrals too. Okay, we want to thank you all who took time off to watch this edition of the program. Senior Barrister, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Leo. To my brothers and sisters who think that elections cannot be won, I want to dare you, go and register massively. Don't divide our votes. Put all those votes inside Reform Party and see what will come out of it. Will be the CPDM. Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. The problem is that the opposition is afraid to stand tall. Some of them receive bribes from the ruling party. I enjoy the program, though. Cipro is writing from Yaoundé. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. Mr. Liu, permit me say this to the young persons out there and the aging. Now, if you would complain that your rights were violated, be it by that military officer or the government, then don't take part in violating your right to vote. So don't complain when the other rights are violated, because you should not be at the center of violating your very first and firm right, the right to vote and the right to be voted.
Okay.
So think about this.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. I think the opposition party can't form a coalition because most of the so-called opposition parties are branches of the ruling party, created by the ruling party in disguise to stand against any that really opposition party may want to bring up. Okay, the ruling party pay them for that and sometimes compensate them with the councils, MPs and senators. That's why we always see the opposition in disguise tell you they support the ruling party. Frederick is writing from Ngaoundere. Mr. Liu, the ballot box since 1992 has never reflected the minds of people in Cameroon. Since my last identity card was produced in a police station, we are in the studio day in for our able identity card in Bamenda. It is impossible to receive it. Ndale Innocent writing from Bamenda. Yes, so many persons are writing concerning their ID cards. Maître Alex, thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to make this point, which is very important. There is a difference between a political party and opposition. A political party is an organization of people who share the same view and they want to know how to use power together. So we keep on saying on this program that opposition should come together. political party is different from opposition. It doesn't mean because you're opposition, you share the same view or ideologies. So we should get that clear on this program. Thank you very much, Mr. Ndive, for bringing me into this program. Thank you, Barrister Ashu and Mr. Lucas. It's always a pleasure to be on your program.
Okay, we want to thank the production team, Eli and Desmond, and to the millions of persons who have watched this edition of the program. Take the rendezvous if you missed it tomorrow 1 p.m. for a rebroadcast edition. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.